right, we have a great show today with you. We have Coach Michael Brinson with us, strength and conditioning coach, Jackson Academy. Obviously, I have my co-host, Coach Derek DePasco, with me as well. We're going to talk some more strength and conditioning today. Coach has come to us from an amazing background in strength and conditioning. He was at the University of Kansas. He was at Liberty. He was at University of Missouri as strength and conditioning coach. He's a former U.S. Army Airborne, 82nd Airborne strength and conditioning coach. So he's been really done a lot of amazing things from a strength and conditioning standpoint. Obviously, with a college background, brings a lot to the table to Jackson Academy. Was at the University of Southern Mississippi where he studied kinesiology and exercise science. So just a fantastic background, Coach. Before we go any further, if you could talk a little bit about, your athletic background, your playing background, and then kind of how you got into strength and conditioning and, the whys and what brought you to Jackson Academy.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in this area. I grew up in Flowood, Mississippi, which is right next to Jackson. So it was pretty awesome to get to come home at this point in my career. But I started playing football in middle school. Like most guys who start playing football, you're trying to figure out how to get better and lift weights. And I just went on the internet one day and typed in, football workouts and stumbled upon Elite FTS, started reading some stuff, started getting into powerlifting, knew that training for powerlifting was not what I needed to be doing specifically as a football player at that point in time, but I knew, that was something I was going to be interested in once I was done playing. So, had a few strength coaches in high school, not like it is now where you have full-time certified guys, but they were football coaches who, had some weightlifting background or experience in the weight room. Knew I wanted to coach. Coaches were very influential to me early on. Didn't know what I wanted to coach. Didn't really know that a strength coach was a thing. I was lucky enough to get to go play football at Southern Miss. And I got there, and my freshman year, my strength coach was Paul Jackson, who, in my opinion, is one of the best in the industry. And as soon as I was around him and saw, what he was going to do, what he was about, knew right away that's what I wanted to do. So finished out my career, got right into coaching. My mentor came in, Zach Woodfin, at that point as the head strength coach at Southern, interned for him, GA'd for him, was a coach there for, I believe it was 3 years. When he went to Kansas, I followed him after he had been there for a year, spent a year with him at Kansas. Then I had the opportunity to go to Liberty University with Dom Sidzinski. Spent 1 year there, and then Zach got the head job at Missouri, and I followed him there. Spent 2 years with him, got to be around the best of the best in the SEC. We from that point, typical coaching, we all got let go. Got let go kind of late in the hiring cycle, so I took a tactical job at Fort Bragg, working with the 82nd Airborne and the H2F program. Was there for a few months. It was definitely different from being in the athletic or the football realm. It was very rewarding work, but working with tactical population is very, very different than working with athletes. But I was there for a few months, got the opportunity, actually accepted a special forces strength and conditioning position. And then I got a phone call about the Jackson Academy job, and it was really a godsend because this is home for me. I didn't go to Jackson Academy, but I knew about this school, knew about this place, knew how great a place it is. I came in as the first full-time strength and conditioning coach the school's ever had. So I was able to create the program exactly how I wanted it from day one. We are now entering May. Will be starting year 4 for me. Year 4 looks a lot different than year 1. Obviously, I'm blessed. I have an assistant. We're really unique from any other high schools or private schools in the state or really in the country that we have a strength and conditioning staff. We're not just a one
Right.
man. We actually have 2 full-time strength coaches, which certainly makes things better, but ultimately it's really good for the kids.
I think that's you got that fact that you have a staff. That's really unique. So
That's wild. That's
Yeah.
wild.
yeah. So because if a high school has a full-time strength and conditioning coach,
Oh God, yeah.
it's him and he does everything. The
Yeah.
fact that the staff is phenomenal. So talk about the transition from college to high school. Was that that kind of thought process? What did you have to change if you did? And by the way, I'm very familiar with Elite FTS stuff. I remember all that stuff. Like those guys get after it. Like it's they get after it. That was. I mean, they're now all like into. They have all kinds of products now. But I remember when the old days when it was just really the training videos and all that stuff. So
Right. Yeah.
but now they have like a gigantic business in the Elite FTS space. But yeah, no, talk about that transition from college to high school.
Yeah. So I really think, whether I knew it or not, the whole time I was in the college setting, I was preparing for an opportunity like this. I was always in downtime or, when we didn't have a lot going on, programming and planning and kind of getting my thoughts together. When I get an opportunity to be a head guy, what is that going to look like? What are we going to do? What are the objectives? How do I want things to look day to day? I was really blessed when I worked at Liberty with Dom. This was his first opportunity as well, and I got to see, a guy that I respect as much as anybody in this field, how he created his program, and I learned a lot from him. One of my favorite quotes that he shared with us. I think it was our second day on site when the kids weren't in yet, but we were already preparing for our roles on game day. This is January and we're already talking about what we're doing, on game day in the fall. And he said, look, I only get one opportunity to be a head guy. If I screw this up, I'm never going to be a head guy again. And he told us, I like to prepare for my preparation. So that really stuck with me. And when I heard that and I saw, how smoothly we implemented his program and how much buy-in we had from the kids and how prepared we were, I realized, I need to really get serious about preparing for that opportunity, because when you do get one, you're only going to get one. You only have one opportunity to be a head guy for the first time, so you've got to make it count.
Right.
But really, what we do is not all that different from what you do in the collegiate side. Now, obviously, the intensities, the volumes, the X's and O's of training, those subtle nuances are very different, because high school athletes are certainly different than college athletes. And we actually train all of our middle school kids too. So we go 7th through 12th grade.
Damn.
We're busy. We have 7th through 12th grade, male and female. So
maybe that's why it's got a staff, Dave. Maybe that's why it's got a staff.
I wouldn't be able to get it done without my assistant, but we run this I tell, when we have prospective students come on campus and they come by and they visit us, I tell them we run this very much like a college program is run, because that's what I know.
Right.
We treat all of our incoming kids like a college freshman, assume they know nothing. We're going to teach them how to do everything the exact way we want it. We're gonna start with step A, and we're not moving to step B until A gets mastered. But the biggest things with high school, middle school training that no one talks about is the logistics of training and the flexibility that you've got to have in programming. Because the great thing about the college setting is you're guaranteed to have them. You're guaranteed they're going to be there. This is their job. They've got class, they've got youth, they've got sport, they've got academics, but that's it. In the high school and the middle school setting, you're going to have um, tutors come up. You're going to have doctor's appointments. You're going to have field trips. You're going to have travel ball. I mean, you name it, you're going to have things come up, and you've got to have a plan in place in order for that not to wreck your training program.
Right.
We do some things that I think are really conducive to this setting and make things a lot easier to manage from a programming standpoint and a planning standpoint. All of our kids follow the same general training program, regardless of age, regardless of sport, regardless if it's in season or off season. The movements that they do, the intensities that they follow will be slightly different. Those things will get manipulated, but 90% of what we do on paper is exactly the same. And it's very flexible. We run, the best way I know to describe it is we run a holistic undulating concurrent model. And I know that's, a lot of
big words, Coach. Those are big
science
words.
training jargon,
Yeah.
but holistic being that we do a lot of different things in the weight room. We do a lot of different things on the field. We're not married to one certain, system or one set of movements. We're not anti-Olympic lifting or only Olympic lifting. If it makes us better, if we're able to implement it, if the logistics work, if the flow of the room works, we're going to do it. Undulating being we manipulate our training intensity week to week across 3-week blocks. So week 1 for us is a moderate volume, moderate intensity week. Week 2 is a low intensity, high volume week. Week 3 is a high intensity, low volume week. And then we repeat that just over and over and over again across the year. And so the flexibility with that is if a kid misses, say, day 2 of week 2, it's okay because he's going to have an opportunity. He or she's going to have an opportunity to come back to that exact session in 2-3 weeks time, right? Versus if we, sit out and write a 12-week straight linear progression, if they miss week 2, it's going to wreck everything that comes next because they've missed, a building block in that, enormous giant model. And that's a big part, I think, that's different from the college setting, because in the college setting, you have flexibility and the time to sit there and write out long training blocks. In the high school setting, you don't have that flexibility because they're going to train with me. Then they may go train with somebody on the side. They may play baseball for us, but then they're going to go play baseball, travel ball with somebody else while they're playing AAU basketball. And they've got spring practice of football and they're running track. So you've got to be able to manipulate all of these external factors that are going on. And with our 3-week undulating model, it's a lot easier to do that. And then concurrent being, we train every quality all the time. It's just at different dosages depending on the time of year. So we don't ever go through, hypertrophy blocks or general strength blocks or power blocks. We train every quality just at different dosages year round. One, because, just being honest, middle school kids and high school kids who are new to training, they suck at everything. They need everything, and that was something honestly that I got when I was at Fort Bragg is like, these are not, people hear, 82nd Airborne and they think all these guys are Superman, and they are absolutely elite at their job. Jumping out of a plane with 100 pounds of gear, landing, getting ready to go in combat. I mean, that's something that, the three of us can't even fathom, right?
Yeah.
They are absolutely elite at their job. But they are absolutely average when it comes to athleticism and training if they've ever done anything, right? Because that's not something
it's not their world.
I mean, it's just not their world. And a lot of them have never done any of these things. So, I would get into debates with the other strength coaches when I was at Bragg about this, because they wanted to do everything by the textbook and go through, a general prep phase and a hypertrophy phase and a strength phase. It's like, look, this doesn't work. They need everything. They are not strong. They're not powerful. They're not in conditions specific to training to handle high training loads. we don't have time to go through 4 or 5 weeks of training with certain qualities in mind, especially when they're going to be out in deployment or out in the field or out on exercise for 2 weeks at a time. If we go through a hypertrophy block and they leave us for 2 weeks, they're going to lose all of that. So that was something that I took from the brief tactical stint that I had, is that, undertrained athletes, undertrained people really need exposure to as many qualities as often as possible as you can get. And then the collegiate side of that is when you are around, we'll use football as an example, when you are around a really high level football strength and conditioning program and a really good football program, you will see they will get stronger during the season. Guys will be at their strongest at the end of the season if you do it correctly. If you establish really high capacities in the off season and in fall camp, if you continue to train hard and push the limit during the season, if you get super apprehensive and get really worried about fatigue and all of these other things and back way off of training, especially early on in the season, they're not going to be set up to be strong at the end of the year. So we train hard. We lift really, heavy like I said, every third week throughout the course of the season, regardless if it's football, baseball, basketball, or volleyball players, whoever it is. So that's a piece that I took from the collegiate side. But really, the biggest piece I would say that nobody coming into this thinks about, I certainly didn't come into it thinking about, is how often there's going to be issues and conflicts, especially with your middle school kids, of being there. We had a track meet yesterday and half our guys weren't here. And then, we had 2 or 3 guys at a doctor's appointment. And then we've got guys who are having to go to extra tutoring sessions during our training time. And it's like, if you try to write the perfect program on paper and stick to that with all these things going on, it's never going to happen. So I think, we're on the right track with our very, flexible and I say loose 3-week block. And we've been running that, in some form or fashion since day one, and it's worked really well for us.
Interesting. When going back to when you were at Southern Mississippi and you played for Todd Monken, right?
I did.
And that was when the team went from being like one of the worst in the conference, right, to you guys being, I think, conference champions, right?
Yeah. So my freshman year, we went 12-2, won Conference USA championship. My sophomore year, we went 0-12. So it's the worst season to season. Yeah, it's the worst season. I'm pretty sure it's the worst season to season drop off in NCAA history with football. Monken came in my redshirt sophomore year, and I believe we went 1-11. And then my redshirt junior year, we went 3-9. And then I coached for him his third and final year. We went, I think, 9-3. We lost in the conference USA. We lost in the conference championship to Western Kentucky, but we were able to get things back on track, at least temporarily, anyway.
Right. Well, now they have Charles Huff has come in. You got 50 transfers from our show. So you probably get back on track pretty quick again.
Yeah, I hope so.
No doubt. Yeah, because I know last year was rough there. But what is it when you so in at a place like Southern Mississippi where you saw you guys won when you were originally, then it went down and Todd Monken came in and built it back up. What was some of the things that he instilled that you also try to instill into your programs? It's strength and conditioning, that trying to get players to really kind of, go from good to great, go from average to good, like taking those steps. What are some of the things that you've done with your athletes there? They've learned?
Yeah, I think, a big part of it, when I look at my freshman year which was Larry Fedora's last year,
Right.
He and Paul Jackson were very aligned. The things Coach Jackson was saying to us and the things Coach Fedora were saying to us were the exact same. Right. It was like, you could close your eyes and you were hearing the same exact message from both of them. They were very aligned. Coach Jackson knew exactly what style of ball he wanted to play, and we trained that way. It was very up tempo on offense, and so our movement sessions, our conditioning was very fast, very chaotic. I mean, it mimicked what we were doing on the field. Same thing in the weight room; it mimicked what we were doing on the field in terms of the pace and the intensity and the just general chaos of that comes with up tempo offenses. My sophomore year, we obviously made or the school made a poor choice in the head coach, and then he in turn made a poor choice in the strength coach, and just everything was bad. I mean, it was bad. I won't even expand on that. When Coach Monken came in, his strength coach was Mark Smith, who was a longtime assistant of Rob Glass. He was the former head guy at South Carolina, and Coach Smith was really good for us at the time. We were very undisciplined. We were very, I'll just say it, we were very soft. We went from Coach Jackson, tough, discipline, really hard training, to the exact opposite of that. And then Coach Smith came in and kind of got us back on track. And they Coach Monken ended up letting him go after, I think it was his second year, and brought Zach in. And Zach was very similar to Coach Jackson in that the voice and the mission and the overall vision of the team were identical. Coach Woodfin was preaching the same things that Coach Monken was, and the training backed up what he wanted to do on the field. So there was never any confusion or drop off, or you go from the strength and conditioning staff to practice and there's a lack of intensity, or vice versa. It was everything was at the same level all the time. So I think that part of it is really important. I meet with our coaches as much as possible. We keep an open line of communication. We go to practices. We see what they're doing. We see, how they are coaching, and we don't change exactly what we do based on how they're getting coached at their sport. But, certain sports get coached a little bit differently by us. Our volleyball team has won 9 of the last 10 state championships. That is a great program we have at our school. We don't have to hammer them on the same things that we have to hammer, say, the football team or the basketball team on, because that culture has been established. Our head football coach coached me in college. He recruited me in college, and he was on both Monken and Fedora's staffs. So he and I go pretty far back, and the things that we're preaching to the team are the same. And I think when the kids are hearing the same message all the time, it really, everybody talks about building culture and all these things, but that is what creates the environment you want. When
Absolutely.
They go from one location to the next, and the message is the same, the expectations the same, the standards the same. And then the other part of it is the best coaches that I've been around, football, strength and conditioning, doesn't matter, are the most consistent ones. You know exactly what they're going to be like when you show up. When I was interviewing for this job, they asked me, how are you going to build buy-in? How are you going to build relationships with the athletes? And I told them, well, number one, I'm going to be who I am. I'm not going to be, anyone else. I'm going to be authentic to me, because kids these days are so smart. They're going to see right through you trying to be something you're not. And then two, I'm going to be the same way every day. My goal is when they come to us, we are the most consistent part of their day. We're more consistent in the classroom. We're more consistent in the home. We're more consistent in their sport. They're going to know exactly what to expect from us every single day. And then in turn, they know what's expected of them every single day. Our standard doesn't change every day. We expect them to be on time. We expect them to be dressed correctly, shoes tied, all of these things. We expect them to look us in the eye when we're talking. We expect them to say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, coach, no, coach. When we say something to them, we expect them to be coachable, all of those things. And it's the same way every single day. And, that to me is culture. If you even want to use that word, when the kids know what to expect and then they know what's expected of them and it's very clear, that is culture.
No doubt about it. As far as from, like, 'cause you talked about how you have kids playing obviously multiple sports, you kind of balance that from a training standpoint. Um, what part of do you do speed development as part of your okay?
We do.
So how do you integrate like speed and explosive training in with your strength training? Kind of what's your philosophy on that?
So I'll use middle school as an example. Our middle school boys are with us every single day, Monday through Friday.
That's awesome. Wow.
We
Yeah, that's
typically
a
lift
different.
three.
That's awesome. That really is.
Yeah,
That's great. Like, I mean, Dave, weren't we
yeah,
just
we're
talking about that? How like the phys ed departments of some of these schools have gone to like God knows what. It's awesome.
Yeah. The other beautiful thing about it is it's during the school day. So
Yeah.
we have one group before school, and then we have maybe one group after school, or like right now we're in spring practice, so we have football practice after school. But we get everybody trained during the school day. So our schedule is set up, to be successful. But our middle school boys typically will lift 3 days a week. We have a lower body lift, an upper body lift, and a total body lift. Um, we have 2 movement days a week. Our movement days, depending on the time of year, we always have some type of speed training as a part of that. We go through our warm up, we go through our plyos, we go through our speed mechanics, and then we do some type of speed training immediately afterwards. Sometimes, depending on the schedule and the calendar year, sometimes the entire session is speed training. Sometimes after we get done with a very brief speed training session, we go into some type of conditioning. But right now, because we're in spring practice and the majority of our kids are playing football, we do our speed training, and then we actually go back into the weight room and we do some extra upper body lifting. But we, like I was saying, with this concurrent approach, we train speed in some capacity year round, be that in the weight room or on the field. So our upper and lower body lifts, if you want to think about this, kind of like West Side Barbell or the conjugate method, our upper and lower body lifts start with what looks like dynamic effort work. So on our lower body days, we go through some type of banded lower body put or accommodated resistance lower body push. Right now, we're doing banded pin squats. We then go into a loaded jump, and then we go into we're doing seated jumps off a bench, and we go through that. All the weights are very light; they're very fast. The intent is, through the roof, and we go through that. It's on the clock. We go very fast. Then we go into some type of Olympic lift. Then we go into some strength work, and then our upper body day is similar. We do some type of snatch pull variation. We do some type of plyometric push up. Then we do some type of med ball throw. And again, we do 5, 6, 7, 8 sets on the clock. It's very fast. Rest times are short. The weights are light, and we tell the kids you cannot move the bar fast enough. You cannot move the med ball fast enough. So we're getting a power development from that. Our total body day is, again, if you're thinking about West Side Barbell and the conjugate method, that is our quote max effort day. So when we come in on that day, we're going to power clean, we're going to back squat or front squat, depending on who it is, and then we're going to bench press, and we're going to do a couple other accessories. And we will follow that model year round, regardless if it's in season or off season. Now, how we manipulate that when we are in season is because we use this 3-week undulating wave, if we have a really big game on a Friday night against, the crosstown rival, and it's our third week of the block, we will back off a little bit on the intensity of that day. If it's our second week of this 3-week block and we have a big game on Friday night, we will keep it the same because the intensity is low anyway. So we'll just manipulate slightly up or down within that. With the kids playing multiple sports, it's very easy for us to transition from sport to sport because our training doesn't change. It's very easy for a guy to go from playing football to playing basketball because he's following the same training program regardless. It's just he's going to go from in season to in season, and those variables are going to get manipulated slightly depending on who we're playing, when we're playing, and then the days that he trains obviously are gonna be different because we play basketball games on different nights than football games. As far as the travel ball stuff and the AAU, I'll be honest, I don't care. The most important thing is us, it's Jackson Academy. So I'm reasonable to a degree, but the most important sport you play is a sport you play for Jackson Academy. So we don't change a whole lot for, a travel ball game. We're not going to change a whole lot for an AAU tournament. You're still going to train. To me, that's not as important as you playing basketball or baseball for Jackson Academy. There was a lot of pushback on that when I first got here. And then I think people started to get on board with that and realizing, we can train hard and still go do those things and be fine. These are high school kids and they recover in 5 minutes. And some kids, who are really good at a certain sport and are doing, the travel and the AAU stuff to legitimately help their recruiting, we're more reasonable with. We've got some guys who are really, really good soccer players. And so, if it's Friday and they've got a soccer tournament all weekend, we won't do any of the lower body work we were supposed to do on that day. We are reasonable with to a degree, but I think this is important for anybody coming in day one. We went in with the mindset of doing too much and being too hard and then having to back off and ask forgiveness versus coming in soft and having to tighten up as we went. But at this point, we really don't have any issues with it, because what I've found is you can preach to them as long as you want about focusing on the main sport and the school sport. They're going to do it regardless. We're going to have football players who are playing AAU basketball during football season. They're going to do it. You're not going to stop them from doing it. We're going to have, and I didn't know this was even a thing until I got to this job, because it wasn't a thing when I was in high school or middle school. Travel football is a thing now. I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
We're going to have 7th, 8th, and 9th graders who play a football game on Thursday. They're going to turn around and play another football game on Saturday and Sunday. And I tell them it's like tough. You're training Friday, the day after your football game, like normal. And it's the hardest lift of the week for us because, I'm going to create the mentality of the team and of the guys that we do our hardest work when we feel the worst. That's just going to be who we are. And, if you've got a travel football game the next day, I hate it for you. That's just going to be part of our DNA and part of who we are. And like I said, at this point, it's pretty well established, and we really don't have any issues with it. It is tough to manage. I educate as much as I can and give them my opinion on it, that, you're not getting seriously recruited in the 7th grade as a football player. Your time is better spent training, eating, and playing as well as you can for us and focusing on that. Some listen, some don't, and I know a lot of it's driven by the parents, and, that's okay. I get it.
They play with the Jackson Academy middle school game, and then they play again on.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, we have guys who are on multiple teams. You know, they'll play for us. They'll be in
and
the
they'll play multiple
8-7.
games in a weekend. Wow.
Oh yeah, we have guys who are, you know, they'll play on a Thursday night in the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and then we have 7th graders who will play on Monday night, Thursday night, and then they'll go play a game Saturday for one team. They'll play another game on Sunday for another team. You know,
welcome to the South, right?
Right. And
welcome to the South, right?
Yeah, and it's always frustrating to me because you know you'll meet with a parent who has got a son that wants to play college football, and they'll say, "Well, coach, what do we need to do to get bigger and stronger?" Well, we're doing that already, you know. And it's like, "Well, do I need to add any extra?" No, you know, we train 5 days a week, and when they're in high school, we train 6 times a week because we train in the morning and the afternoon. It's more than enough. What you need to do is if you want to play college football or you want to play college basketball, you need to cut everything else out. You need to eat. You need to get bigger. You know, because when coaches come visit, I mean, you guys know this. Do you look the part or not? I mean, that's half the battle. You know, and it's frustrating because it seems so obvious to people in my position. You know, we're doing too much, and they are setting themselves up to have some type of overtraining injury.
Right.
You know, they're running themselves into the ground. We're playing a sport, practicing all weekend. Then we come in on Monday and we train and we practice and we go through the course of the week, and then we're right back at it next weekend. And then, you know, next thing I know, we've got some kind of injury or something flare up, and it's like, you know, they want to make me the bad guy, but it's like, you know, I'm not in charge of them other than the 45 minutes a day they're with me.
Right. Yeah, well, rest and recovery is a big thing, right?
It's huge. You know, we bombard our kids with nutrition education. We try to once a week spend the last 5-10 minutes of a lift talking about something. You know, if it's either, you know, this is how you eat before you train, or this is how you eat after you train. This is how we need to hydrate. One of the first things I did when I got here is anyone who was an athlete, you had to carry some kind of container around with you for water. You know, I mean, we live in the hottest part of the country. It's, you know, it's miserable here in the summer times. And, you know, all I heard coming in is cramping. And it's like, well, you know, we're not gonna have the excuse of cramping. We're gonna be in shape, we're gonna be fast, and we're gonna be recovered, and we're gonna be hydrated and prepared. And that's one of those, you know, this is run very much like a college program is run. You know, when we see our guys and girls walking around campus and they don't have some kind of water vessel on them, you know, it's go find something, go get a water bottle, get a gallon jug, something, you know, because we've got to get hydrated. But they don't, the recovery side of this, it's no different than it is in any other setting, college or professional. It's the boring stuff. It's the stuff that nobody wants to do. It's the stuff that, you know, you don't see the immediate results from. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to sit down and look at their nutrition. Nobody wants to talk about sleep hygiene because it's not fun. You know, we would rather go, you know, run routes on air, or, you know, go and shoot in the gym for an hour. You know, nobody wants to talk about that stuff. But the guys who really buy into that, it's easy to use them as an example because their bodies change the fastest. You know, our guys who take their recovery the most serious and take their nutrition seriously, they are the ones whose body changes the most and the fastest. And it's easy to use them as, you know, as an example for everybody else. And by this point, you know, going into year 4, we've got lots of people who we can use as an example because they've been training for 4 years now.
Yeah, I think that, well, one of the things that you know, we talk about the boring stuff, right? It's funny because you're in the field, so all the adults when they become adults, all they're trying to do is try to watch videos on how do they recover, how do they sleep better, how, you know what I'm saying, all the videos that you see, all the viral guys, all these things on that. And this is actually while they're an athlete, the short time period that they have, which kids never realize. They don't realize that. They don't realize because they're in it, and they just and you probably thought this way. I thought this way. Probably Derek thought this way. You're thinking while you're in it, it's going to go. It's not going to come to an end, and then it comes to an abrupt halt when you're. For most people, when they're done with high school, guys like us when you're done with college, right? But you don't realize how brief that is. That's only a 4 or 5 year extension.
Well, they all think they have time,
right.
And one of our most consistent messages is we're always preparing for the next step. So when we're in JV, we're preparing for varsity, and when we're in varsity, we're preparing for college. And I mean, 99% of our kids are never going to play college sport, but we're preparing with that in mind. And one of the most always eye-opening discussions we have is when we're talking to our ninth graders, towards the end of football season, and then towards the end of basketball season, towards the end of baseball season, is like, look, this time next year, you're playing varsity football, baseball, or basketball. You're going up against 16, 17, 18-year-olds. We got work to do. You currently are not ready for that. We will get you there,
right?
But how fast we get you there is going to, a lot of that's going to depend on you and what you're doing outside of here. And that's always really that one's always eye-opening to them. And then in our league, when the varsity football season or JV football season is over, they all just move up to the high school. So we're having those discussions with the eighth graders, like, this time next year, you're playing on Friday nights.
Right.
You're around those guys this time next year. And a year is not a long period of time. You don't have time to sit around and wait. You don't have time to decide if I want to get serious or not about this.
Right.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it.
Coach, how many sorry, I was just curious. What's the enrollment like at the school? How big is the school itself?
We go K2 through 12, and I think we are at 1,500 total. What's that?
Is it co-ed?
Yes.
Male and female athletes? And then how many would you say, like, if you're talking high school only, how many varsity sports, or how many sports do you kind of?
So the ones we train: football, baseball, basketball, volleyball, soccer, golf.
There's another golf, Dave. That shit's real, dude. They work out hard like everybody else, dude.
Well, a lot of our golfers play other things. We have a couple of our I think our top 3 golfers only golf. But the majority of
that's because literally that's all they do, man. They're out there 18 holes every other day, man. Good for them.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of, I would say 75% of our kids play multiple sports and play at least
that was
going
to be my next question, Coach. That was going to be my next question.
50%, I would say, play 3.
Damn.
Maybe higher than that if you include track. But that number goes down, impressive, obviously, as they get older. In 7th grade, 90% of them play football, baseball, and basketball. And then when they get to 8th grade, that drops a little bit. 9th grade drops a little bit. And then once they go into their senior year, their sophomore year, it's that number starts to come down a little bit. And at that point, it's usually we're really good at 1, or we're really good at maybe 2, and then we're playing either that second or third sport for the love of it, which is fine. I mean, we obviously encourage our kids to play multiple sports, and I mean, it's good for them to play multiple sports. I mean, just for the competition aspect of it, the more you compete, the more competitive you are, and we want athletes who are as competitive as possible. But it is, I think when coaches hear this, I think the reality of how daunting this can be to manage starts to set in. When you've got kids who are playing 3 sports and they're doing travel stuff outside, and managing that in the weight room and on the field with strength and conditioning can be a headache and can be a nightmare if you don't have good systems in place.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, I think you have a great system set up, and
awesome.
the continuity of obviously most of the kids probably go to that school from the time they're young all the way through to high school. So it gives that nice kind of continuity. You probably know a lot more of the kids a lot longer too, which is really cool. So you can have some of those tougher conversations because you have that relationship already. Really cool stuff. It's always
trust factor too, right, Dave? If you have the same strength guy that's been literally training you like through puberty, like hell, you can see the kid who was, in sixth grade, he was this, and now all of a sudden, he's going into his senior year, and we're talking about I got offers from here, and here, and you can kind of, I mean, that's a hell of a game.
I mean,
right?
I really think part of my job is knowing these kids better than they know themselves.
Right.
The great thing about this setting is I see them every single day, and I see them not just when they're with me. I see them on campus and the academic setting. I see them getting dropped off, getting picked up. And you get to see them in every possible state and situation. And young men especially are very impressionable, and so this is, that's what's so great about coaching. I mean, this is a very honorable profession. It's a very important profession because, coaches certainly are responsible for who I am today, and, that's what's so great about this setting, especially given the state of, collegiate sports with the NIL and portal and everything. I mean, those guys at that level are basically rentals at this point. You're going to get what you need out of them for a year, and then they're out for a bigger deal, or you're getting rid of them and upgrading. But, I really do think though that part of my job is knowing them better than they know themselves, because when you're in middle school, I mean, you don't know what day of the week it is, much less what I'm supposed to be doing at any given point in the day when I'm supposed to be successful. And I mean, it's just every year you learn something new that you thought was not possible, that somebody is doing or not doing, or I mean, you think, you preach like sleep, for example, to them all the time, and you assume they're getting the message. You assume they're doing it, and then you find out, they're staying up till 5 o'clock in the morning every night watching Better Call Saul. I mean, you just you assume, but like, unless you build relationships with these kids and get to know them and they trust you, you're never going to find that information out, and then you're wondering why this kid comes in the weight room and can't remember how to do anything.
Right. No, there's no doubt about it. What you're doing and what you got program wise, it's a building blocks thing, and it's really cool how you built up that program, and your knowledge and your experience from all the places you have. You bring a vast amount of it to the football field and to the other sports. So it's awesome. It's been great having you on, Coach. I really appreciate you taking the time. And talking to us more about what you guys are doing. And it's awesome talking to guys around the country and hearing what they're doing, especially in strength and conditioning. It's amazing because
how far behind New Jersey is.
It varies greatly. There's core fundamentals that most guys are hitting on, but it varies greatly depending on what the needs are for your specific school and what your environment is and how long you have them and when you have them, right? Like those things are really cool. So it's great talking to you about it. I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Yeah. Glad to be here.
Coach,
appreciate the
Paul
opportunity.
Jackson, alma mater, Montclair State.
Yeah,
Jersey
that's
guy.
right. That's right. I think he was a fullback, is what he told us.
Fullback linebacker. Coach,
That's right.
He walked me around camp. recruiting visit.
Great.
Amazing. Small world, Coach. And congratulations, by the way.
It is. I appreciate that.
Good luck with the new one.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we can if we can just get her to sleep.
Oh, come on,
consistently
Coach.
through the night.
You were just talking about sleep. So there you go. Yeah. Mine's mine'll be 22 months, Coach. We got her in a good routine, but it'll work.
Yeah.
Listen, you're talking about sleep etiquette. Here you go. Now you can really tell your guys this is what it looks like, fellas, when you don't listen. When you guys don't sleep, this is what it is, buddy. You'll be all right, Coach.
I'm ready for, but I'm not ready for to get to that point. I got home yesterday from work, and it's like your head's gotten bigger. You're a week old, and your head's already gotten bigger. I mean, what are we doing? You're not supposed to be growing.
Yeah.
But
wait till they get to be 9 years
what
old.
It is.
And telling you what, start telling you what to do.
Dave's got a 9-year-old, and he deals with the middle school. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's he's dealing with that middle school sports stuff. Like, oh man, it's a trip. It is what it is, Coach. But listen, appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad we got this in here. You got something new. Just let us know, man. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys.
Have a great day, Coach.
You too.
All right, bye.
Appreciate it. Have a good one, Coach.
All right, that was great. That was really, really great stuff.
Dude, that's a cool setup. That's why I love talking to those random guys like around the country. And
Oh, you cut out there. Hello? Oh, Derek cut out. I don't know what happened to him. Derek cut out there. I don't know what happened. He was about to talk about Jackson Academy in Jackson, Mississippi. It's great environment. What Coach Brinson's doing is phenomenal, and it's just great stuff. It's really interesting to hear the scope of what he has from where he has them from the time that they're in middle school all the way through high school. I really think that continuity is really, really second to none. It's pretty amazing. No, you can't beat that. I think we'll have Derek back here in a second, but you can't beat that continuity that they have from that time period and the relationships that he's able to build there with those guys. So it's really, really cool stuff. I don't know if we have Derek's showing, but not showing. There he is. There you are. Well, we lost you there for a second. Or do we still have you lost? I don't know. There he is.
Yeah, lost connection as always.
But anyway,
technology never fails.
It's cool, the continuity and the fact that he's able to have them from the time they're young 5th, 6th graders all the way up.
How cool is that? Like, could you imagine, say, like Troy's going to be having the same strength guy, all from middle school through high school, across all sports, right? So, he would know that, Troy's a 3-sport guy and he plays for this club, or, hey, it looks like he's going to trend towards maybe this is his 1, this is his 2, this is his 3 sport. Like, to have that knowledge base and just look at like a health history standpoint. Like, I know in 6th grade, right, that you you broke your foot, or you had this, like, as you were getting older, this was an issue. Let's make sure we add this into your workouts, like almost like a rehab type gig, you know what I mean? Or like a PT type thing. Like, how awesome is that? If that's not a selling point to go to that place, damn, like, it's really cool.
Very, very, very nice. I don't know if you've looked at the
no, I heard Jackson, and I assumed it was like, Jackson, like for where it is, but very nice part of Jackson, I'm guessing.
Well, yes, it's the school is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So anyway, awesome. But that's great pod. We'll jump off. As usual, we get. I love our comments on it. We get every week. Someone tries to sell us something for cheap viewers on YouTube.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know why someone comes in there every week and says cheap viewers on Streambo. I don't even know what that is. I can remove the space. Okay. So next, are we on tomorrow?
Yeah, Brandon Napoleon, who's the corners coach at Woodford.
Yep, perfect. All right, till tomorrow.